Welcome to another edition of the Food Systems Podcast, brought to you by the Forum for the Future of Agriculture. I'm Mark Titterington, and for the next 10 to 15 minutes or so, I'm going to be talking to Jacques Naudé, a man that has a really interesting story from being a rugby captain in South Africa to leading, managing, owning a successful almond and walnut orchard business in Portugal. He is also a winner of the Diploma of Recognition in the Forum's Soil and Land Management Award, which we made at our annual conference in the spring of this year, 2025. Jacques, it's really a great pleasure to have you with us here today and to be talking to you. As I said in my intro there, you've got a really fascinating story. How does a rugby captain from South Africa find himself involved running a business in Portugal, looking after walnuts and almonds?
Yeah, I must say it was quite a journey. So as you said, I'm originally from South Africa, but I was playing rugby in France. I was professional for 10 years, captain of my team. And then at the end of my career, I was starting to feel like I wanted to do something that was a little bit out of the box. I didn't want to follow the same path as most of my friends. Normally, when you end your rugby career, you have an opportunity to go work at the bank or selling insurance or whatever that would be. I felt it wouldn't really be a good fit for me. I wanted to find a way to have a little bit more impact than that. So yeah, I actually eventually, I've never been to Portugal before. I didn't have any family members here. And I actually had a feeling that I need to go to Portugal. I think it was strange. I actually kind of had a dream. That's why I called the company Joseph's Dream, where I felt that I really need to go to Portugal. So came here, I had not a lot of money. So I came to probably the poorest area of Portugal, which is the center. I don't live along the Algarve or Alentejo where most of the tourists are. Arriving here, I had kind of an idea what I wanted to do. I'd done some permaculture courses. I'd actually run a community garden in France, a vegetable garden. So I wanted to do something. I knew I had to want to do something with the land, but I wasn't 100% sure until I found out that the European Union was doing co-financing for projects in our area, where they actually provided grant funding for investment projects. And my first farm was a 14-hectare farm that I bought that had a house on. And yeah, it kind of just grew from there. So I got involved with organic, we do fully organic regenerative. And yeah, it was a very steep learning curve, I can tell you that much. And as time went on, we started to get people interested in what I was doing. And that's where the business side came in. So it's quite out of the box, totally different to what I'm used to. I actually studied finances and economics. So it was a very steep learning curve, I can tell you that much.
So, I mean, it's just fascinating, Jack. I'm just interested. I mean, you didn't just jump into a traditional farming business. You went the whole hog. You went right into regenerative agriculture. I mean, why did you do that? What's your philosophy that's driving you on that?
Well, I think the main driver is that, I mean, if I didn't take the job in France, it was because I wanted to do something different, right? I wanted to have
Right.
impact. And I actually went through a period when I came here. I went through a period of probably about 6 months where I was really struggling within myself to what is the best way to have impact. The one way is to create like a very homey homestead type of thing with a productive orchard on it and look after myself and my family. And I have that saying where if your cup is full and overflowing, you can fill other people's cups. And the idea would be I could take one person at a time and mentor them. I've mentored people in the past and kind of have an impact on a more personal level. Or the other side of it was I came here, I arrived, and I saw this area that's completely abandoned. I mean, the population's been dropping for the last 40 years. I think it's down 70% or something.
Right.
And I was really struggling because I thought, if I take some of my business sense or what I thought was business sense at that point, and actually apply it to this area, I think there's a lot of opportunities. So I eventually got to the point where I knew that the way for me forward was to find a way to take the land that's degraded, abandoned in this area, and allow capital to flow in and expertise as well, and then to change it over time. So you're asking why did I go organic regenerative? I wanted to have an impact. And I didn't want to, if we've got kids on the farm, to have pesticides being sprayed around. I wanted to show actually, and this might be arrogant to say in a way, but I had this dream that organic regenerative agriculture can be something that's more mainstream, that can be successful, and that can scale. So I didn't know that we were going to reach the scale that we're reaching now when I started. I mean, my vision was a lot smaller than what it's actually become. But yeah, that's basically the gist behind it.
So, say, I mean, and by the way, I always meet South Africans that are confident. I never say that they're arrogant. So I appreciate
Okay.
your bills there. Tell us then about Joseph's dream. I mean, why do you call it Joseph's dream? You've touched on wanting to have an impact. Just tell us a little bit about the vision as you've got into there and how you try to develop it.
So obviously not having a lot of capital myself, I literally had this farm and we started, I mean, we're doing perennial crops, right? So
Right.
it's a long time for these trees to actually start bearing. In organic, I think, almonds, you might have your first harvest in the fourth year, which is a
Mm.
long time when you don't have money. It's not like cash crops that you
Yeah,
planting it and then you're harvesting it another year.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think what happened with Joseph's Dream was I had people that were very interested in what we're doing because the farm does look beautiful. I mean, in the springtime, you have these beautiful cover crops. On my website, you've got photos of what it actually looks like. And people started contacting me, but randomly through WhatsApps. They got my number from someone or through the internet, and they said, "Look, we interested in. I want a little piece of paradise in inverted commas." And I said, "Yeah, well, okay." I started to realize that I can't manage it myself. I need to create a team and an infrastructure. And so what actually happened from there is we've got over 20 families now. What they do is they approach me and they say, look, we want to get involved in what you guys are doing. We really like it. And then we find adequate land for them. And normally we find land that's most of the land here is just totally degraded anyways, or abandoned, just full of brush. So we actually start finding land for them. We set up their companies for them. It's their company, it's their land, it's their business. I become a manager on the business. And then I have a team of people that manage the farms and the clients as they come in. We actually call them families because most of the family, it's not like individual clients, it's families that get involved. We create WhatsApp groups with them where it's the mom and the dad and the kids are all on the same group and we're sharing photos of the farms and so forth. So it grew out of there. We started with almonds, added walnuts recently, and yeah, like I said, I mean, I started with my first plantation was 12 hectares. We just did another 123 this year. And yeah, we've bought probably close to 1,000 hectares already. So it's grown very quickly. I must say it was like I've said it before, but it was a massive learning curve. I mean, if I was just doing conventional, I think it would be a lot easier, honestly. My life would be a lot easier. I think even profitability wise, I think you could probably make more money if you just use the economic metric. You could probably make more money just doing pure conventional. But coming from a holistic, view of the thing, I think it's what we're doing is exactly the right thing.
We talk in our forum a lot about the economic and the environmental and the social is a key part of that. When one of the things that as you've talked there that's really kind of picked up my ears is the way that you have brought regenerative farming together with this community initiative. You know, just again say a little bit more about how important that's been to you and give us some idea of the success that you're having in marrying that community, the social goal with the regenerative goal.
Um, Ever since coming to Portugal, I think community is very important. When I was living in France, running the community garden, I had a lot of beautiful families around me, and it was nice. It's good to have people around you. Coming here, it was a shock to see the amount of depopulation we've had here, right? To give you an idea, so when I rocked up here, the first person to come join me was actually my sister and her husband with their two kids. Later, my parents came. They've built a house on the farm for themselves. My other sister and her husband have come over. My two brothers-in-laws have actually started planting blueberries, so they've got blueberry plantations. Also, neither of them from farming backgrounds, just
Yeah.
as a caveat. Um, so for me, what was very nice to see was as people get involved with the land, I think it's kind of like a dream for most people to have a piece of land where they feel it's theirs and they can like see it evolving over time. When we first clear the land and actually plant the trees, it doesn't look great. It looks just like a couple of little sticks in the ground with bare soil. And then as we start applying the practices we put in place, you actually see this thing going from, I don't want to say desert, but kind of like desert, moving over to this lush paradise. And we have a very high rainfall in this area, which is also, helps a lot. But so what then happened is the families have a connection with the land and obviously then also a connection with us. And what's happened is we've got about 14 families that have already moved into this area from outside, so that have almost no connection with Portugal at all with kids and couples. And we have many of the families that have already bought farms. I mean, their actual hope is to actually be able to move over here once their crops are producing and for them to settle in this area. So the community aspect has been absolutely crucial. I mean, and from the beginning, I think I've got many faults, but there's one advantage that I do have is I'm quite sociable. I'm a good communicator. So that has helped to create kind of like a link between all the families. So yeah, that's been very, very good.
When you look back, over your journey, so far, Jacques, what do you think have been some of the critical factors, success factors, if you like, that have enabled you to get where you've got to? I was interested in what you said about the co-financing from the European Union. What else is making the difference in terms of the success you're having?
Yes, it's been the first couple of years were really difficult. I can't tell you. It was, I mean, I didn't know anything about what I was doing. And
Yeah.
I was taking on big projects that are quite capital intensive without a lot of capital, with no capital. The banks also aren't very keen to lend to you in this area because it's, like I said, it's because it's depopulated. There's not a lot of economic activity, so the banks aren't always, up to helping you with lending. So I think the biggest factor has been perseverance, to be honest. These systems take a long time. I know people. I kind of feel like our cultures, and sometimes I've had one or two families like that, where they feel, okay, I've got this 100,000 euros or 200,000 euros. It's been a year. I'm already losing 6% if I'd had it in the market. If you start looking at it like that, you're not going to make it, honestly. So the systems we're building to rejuvenate the soils, to get everything in place. I mean, I've been here for 8 years. My oldest plantation is in its sixth year now. And I can tell you it takes time for these things to come together. So you need a lot of perseverance and patience. And I think if you don't have a true commitment, I mean, I came here, I don't have any family here, I don't have any opportunities for other work. I came here with the idea, I have to make this work, right? Now my family's come and joined me. Now I really have to make it work because everyone's here. So if you've got that perseverance, I think that is the main thing. Capital, I mean, it would be an absolute dream to have more capital, obviously. Capital is something that's hard to come by. The European Union is a great help. So they do 50% co-financing on most of our projects. In my first project, because I was a young farmer, if you're under 40, the financing go up to 60%
Yeah.
with like a 30,000 euro upfront amount to get you started. So that's been great. And I'm actually using those projects to expand. And also we've started having sheep in the orchard about a year ago. And we've had other animals in the orchard. So we're using those projects to kind of like help us grow, if you want to call it that.
You touched on the financing piece, or I provoked that question, and it was interesting what you said about the banks that's integrated in something that the forum is working on how you finance the transition, Jack. Just interested also then from the value chain perspective, the offtake, your customers for what you're producing. How are they engaging? How appreciative are they of your efforts? And I suppose some of our listeners would like to know whether or not you're getting paid more for what you're doing and the way you're doing it.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of a detachment at the moment between, well, that's my feeling anyways, I might be wrong,
Yeah.
between the end consumer and the actual farmer. Remember, the supply chain's massive. I mean, we're doing walnuts now. It's a new thing that we're doing. And I mean, I go to a lot of conferences and speak to a lot of people. The amounts of walnuts and almonds that are moving around the world, we're talking massive quantities, right? So even if you have 500 hectares planted and you're producing whatever, 1,000 tons, it's a drop in the bucket, right? It's like it's almost nothing. So I think I think what's difficult is because there's not that connection, direct connection with the consumer. We get organic prices. We don't get anything more than that, right? Currently, just to give you an idea, and that's another thing. The organic price, the difference between organic and conventional is 15%, which is not a lot. I mean, but I have to say on the other side, the European Union has been doing a great job in with the way that they structure the subsidies. So if I do everything organic with irrigation and whatever, I get about €1,000 per hectare per year to run my farm. So if the costs are €2,000 in a non-producing year, it's covering about half my costs, which is wonderful. I mean, that's great. But we are working. I've made some friends in Spain, Spain being the main producer of almonds. We're looking at creating a link between farmers in Italy, France, Spain, and Portugal, me being the president of Portugal, to create kind of like organic, regenerative, Iberian almond type of thing. But at the moment, the market is you're getting organic prices, right? And I think just on that point, I just want to add. The nice thing about what we're doing is it's a low input system. So if our costs are running €2,000 a hectare in a non-producing year, you'd have the conventional guys down in the south running five and a half, €6,000 a hectare, which is
Yeah.
massive. Now,
Yeah.
obviously, they pushing to yield 2.5 tons per hectare. We hoping to yield 1.3, 1.5. So there's a massive difference in terms of what we're trying to do. But remember, our context is different. We've
Yeah.
got a lot of abandoned land. The land is really cheap. I can
Yeah.
keep buying land and keep implementing, producing less per hectare, where they're paying €26,000 a hectare. I'm paying five or six.
Yeah.
So it's a different context. I think each area is different, but yeah, but we're not getting paid more. No,
Yeah.
not good.
Well, I mean, I love you and thank you for sharing that level of granularity. I think that helps to illustrate some of the opportunities, but also the challenges that you've faced, the last few years that you've taken these steps. Jacques, I want to kind of ask you a final question about, other people that might be interested in taking a similar step. You've touched on it in part of our conversation already. What would your message be to people thinking about jumping in and doing what you've done?
Um, I've met a couple of I mean, I haven't met everyone, but I've met quite a couple of the organic regenerative farmers around, that are supposedly successful in inverted commas. I'm just saying it like that because I don't know if they're really successful, but that's what comes forward. Most of them had a lot of land that they inherited or came from families with a lot of capital, and that makes life a lot easier. I can promise you that much. When you're starting with nothing, it is an absolute grind from day one, and you're actually first going into a deep hole before you even start, getting out of that hole over time. So, yeah, I think if someone wants to start something like this, I would personally advise them, like a lot of our families, if you've got an off-farm income source while you're busy setting up your farm system. I mean, if I had come here and I had absolutely nothing and I started over again, I mean, I would be planting a couple of hectares while I was working off farm if I was from this area. And then as the farm starts producing, adding in, planting more hectares. I think that would be one way of doing it. And the other thing I would say to people is nothing happens in day one, meaning I first planted the almonds. I later started adding the animals. I then started we're busy looking at making our own compost, making our own fertilizer. Now we're setting up a co-op. It takes years. It's not something that happens overnight. So if you're 35 today and you're thinking, "Jeepers, boys, I'm getting going at 40. I'm going to be sitting drinking wine on my stoop," you're mistaking yourself. It's going to take you many years. I think to set up a system like this, I would say it takes about 10 years to set up a proper perennial organic regenerative system. So I think you'd have to look at shorter term cash flow. That would be a main thing. And the learning curve is massive. I mean, I'm lucky because of the scale we have. I'm starting to get some of the best consultants to come in 2 times a month to train our guys. They give their perspective on what we're doing, on the irrigation, on the treatments, on all of that. I'm lucky. But I mean, that wasn't the case when I started. I had to try and learn everything myself from reading studies from America, and obviously the context is different. So yeah, I think if you're going to get started, just have a lot of patience, and you really need to know that you're doing the right thing for you and your family, because there's going to be a lot of dark days, and then you
Yeah.
need to be able to look up and say, okay, this is my mission. I know what I'm doing here, and I just have to keep going.
When I listen to you, the words that are rebounding in my mind, perseverance, I think you used that as well earlier, commitment, but also listening to you, the curiosity and the innovation that you've had, I think it's built your momentum, and momentum takes some time to build. But Jacques, listening to you, it's one of the most inspiring stories that we've heard, I think, within the forum. It's why I'm sure you got the diploma of recognition. I could spend another hour talking to you. I hope one day to be able to come and visit you. But for now, Jacques, thanks so much indeed for joining us. It's been great talking to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to tell our story. We really do enjoy it. And I just, on an optimistic note, I just want to tell you there is a lot of capital out there in the world looking for a home. And if someone is starting out and they have some semblance of success, the upside is unlimited. So yeah,
Fantastic. Great way to finish. Jacques, thanks again.
thanks, Mark.
Well, you've been listening to another edition, an inspiring edition, I would say, of the Food Systems Podcast with Jacques Naudé. It's been a pleasure having you with us. Join us again next time.